What would I say to someone who feels like they're too far off from a lean physique or, creating the body composition that they want?
Don't you want to look good naked?
I would say you're never too far off. It's never too late to focus on the basics, really, because that's where most of the change happens, is not thinking about the next diet you're gonna go on or the most popular diet or how you can burn more calories in your exercise session. Those are the wrong things to be focused on. I think that's where a lot of people get caught up, is they just don't know where they should be spending their time to get the most bang for their buck. I did that for a long time, as I was focused on all these little things and feeling like I was doing a lot of different things, feeling like I was putting in a lot of work and not getting the reward from that. And I think the issue is that we're focused on the wrong things. We're not educated on the things that actually matter. We're not aware of those things. We don't have the accountability to stick with the things that matter. So, for example, if your goal is to change your body composition, focusing on, first of all, what you're eating, your protein intake, understanding that there's no one way, right? Everybody enjoys different ways of eating. Everybody can adhere to something a little bit differently than the other person. You're your own individual. You have to figure out what works for you. And sometimes that takes time. Sometimes that takes work, putting in work to find what works for you. But going back to the basics, right? So if you have never tracked your food before and you don't have an objective metric to rely on for that, then maybe it's time to start tracking your food a little bit, just to see, just to have that objective metric and stop relying, on the subjective part of it, right? Which is portion sizes and portion control. That can be great for a starting point, but at some point your body's natural biology is going to take over, right? And that's where that kind of intuitive eating side of things comes in. Intuitive eating is great, but I think if you have a specific goal and you don't have an objective metric to help you to track that goal, then your internal biology is literally going to tell you to not do that, right? Because your body is very smart. It wants to maintain where it's at. It wants to do whatever it can to survive. So if you go into a fat loss goal, for example, and you're relying on your intuition, then you're going to intuitively not get into the calorie deficit that you need to lose that body fat, because your body's going to continue to fight against you, because it's saying, hey, I don't want to eat less. I want to survive. I want to eat more. I want to stay where I'm at. Putting yourself in that position and understanding that it's going to be uncomfortable, and that's part of the process, right? That's part of, if you want to lose body fat or if you want to gain weight in a surplus or in a building phase, those are two things that you're literally fighting against your body to do. If you're just relying on subjectivity, if you're just relying on how you feel and the signals that your body's sending you, those hunger signals, if you're only relying on that, that's probably, maybe you'll get to your goal eventually. But if you're looking to get there efficiently and with those objective metrics, then it probably makes sense to spend a little bit more time on the things that will give you that roadmap a little bit better. So the objective things, so tracking your food, paying attention to, your training program. Like, are you lifting weights and tracking your progress over time, or are you just going into the gym and doing random stuff because it feels hard? That's getting back to the basics, right? So things like tracking your food, things like paying attention to, your progression in the gym, simply tracking what you're doing each day, right? Paying attention to your stress management. That's a huge thing, because if you're stressed out all the time, you're going to end up, again, going back to what your body's telling you, which is, I'm stressed. I'm going to do whatever I can to get away from feeling this. So maybe you are going for the chocolate in the cabinet or eating a jar of peanut butter, which I've done before. I can tell you that it's going to make the process a lot faster and a lot more enjoyable, because once you start to see the results from the work that you're putting in and from the metrics that you're tracking along the way, that is what builds confidence, right? That's what builds that momentum, and that will lead to the motivation to keep going. But if you're relying on just, the motivation from the start, you're relying on, okay, like I'm gonna start over on Monday, it'll be fine. that is where a lot of people get into this mindset of like, okay, I'll just start over on Monday, or okay, I'll just pay attention to what my body's telling me because eventually I'll get to that goal. But what if you could just have a roadmap, right? What if you knew, okay, this is where I'm at. This is the next step. Once I get there, I can go to the next step, et cetera, et cetera. So to kind of wrap that all up, I think being aware, being educated is super important. Tracking metrics, even if you don't feel like you need to, I think that is a piece that a lot of people miss out on, is the data side of things. The main thing is just realize that it's never too late. And if you are struggling, if you're continuing to struggle and spin your wheels, ask for help. Women, we believe